Hey folks, I'm doing this video as a lead-in to my next video on Atheistkult. So I'm looking forward to ripping into those guys, but I realize I need to do some groundwork before we go there. So this video is on nihilism and what it is. Nihilism is one of the most misunderstood philosophies out there. There's three main stereotypes that's generally associated with, all negative stereotypes, of course. The first being the suicide, the person that embraces the concept that there's no inherent truth and decides to be depressed and off themselves. The second major stereotype is the faux intellectual in the art house there, the morally callow user of people who seduces married women and fulfills no obligations by the excuse that morality is not inherent, and so he's just going to live by whatever strikes him as a good idea in the moment. And then the third stereotype is the monster, the Hitler or the Stalin, who embraces this will to power to become just an oppressive despot. And not a single one of those stereotypes, although there is some truth to them, not a single one of them actually embraces what a true nihilist is. Now, as you can see in the title there, this is Nihilism and the Red Pill, because the Red Pill is the perfect introduction to explain what nihilism is. The Red Pill, which is a phrase bandied about frequently on the corners of the internet where I hang out, is of course an allusion to the Matrix, where Neo is noticing glitches in reality. Little tiny problems here and there, little cracks that suggest that there's something else going on. And so you have the choice between the red pill and the blue pill. The blue pill, you continue living life as it is, voting and driving to work and just ignoring everything, just going on as you are, but you'll never know the truth. The red pill, on the other hand, burns like poison, but you get to learn the truth. And if there's a disaster coming, you will see the disaster, unlike all the blue pillars. There's three main topics where they'll mention the red pill. The first, of course, being gender dynamics, feminism, the fact that women aren't inherently virtuous, that they're people, just like men are, that men aren't inherently evil, for that matter. Women are hypergamous. Feminism has done everything it can to destabilize marriage, to drive people apart from each other, so on and so forth. So that's the red pill with feminism, women, the men's rights movement, and game. Then you have the red pill with government. The fact that government is not a naturally occurring entity. It is not inherent to humanity. And in fact, it did not predate civilization, but it appeared after we were already civilized, after we were farming and living in communities with enough people and enough sufficient wealth to support a government. That's when it appeared. I heard it put very well recently that you don't get tumors growing on dead animals. And the third red pill is that of the mainstream media. The realization that news reporters and newspapers and television stations are bought and paid for. That they report selectively what supports the lying blue pill ideology that profits them. That they're just another wing of the government. And of course the internet is helping all of these things come together. Typically, the only person you can talk to about, say, the government is a college professor. And the only time that you'll notice that the media isn't reporting accurately is if you were personally involved with the story and you get to see the lies yourself. With the internet, all of us pros out here are getting together, we're comparing notes, we're noticing things about women, about government, marriage, divorce court, cops, the justice system, history. We're able to go and find a history book written 100 years ago by the guy that didn't win the war, We're going to hear the other perspectives, and the cracks are showing. Gotta love the red pill. Burns like a son of a bitch, but you're better for it. And the red pill, fundamentally, is really just a chip off the block of nihilism. So nihilism. Nihilism begins with the premise that there is no innate value to the universe. There is no innate morality. There is no God, that God is dead. And this is where the suicide stumbles. The suicide hears this, that there is no innate value, and they must think that there is no value whatsoever, which is absolute horseshit. There is value, there is emotion, there is happiness. Listen, velocity does not have an absolute value. With general relativity, we realize that there is no absolute frame of reference. The velocity that you're traveling at when you drive your car is unique to your frame of reference. Nobody else sees you traveling at the same velocity. It is unique, it's not inherent to the universe. There is no absolute framework. And morally, there's no codex of ultimate wisdom out there. Morality is what we make of it. And the suicide never capitalizes upon this to realize that you can restructure your morality. And the second, the cynic, the art house intellectual, is a selfish little sociopath who decides to go out and pursue the whims of the flesh with no regard for morality or obligation. But charming though he might be in his 20s, look at him 30 years down the road, and you see a lecherous old man. If he is a businessman, you have American Psycho. You see a fat, depressed, lonely thing who knows the price of everything but the value of nothing. This is not an Ubermensch. The great man who lives with passion and integrity and by his own standards, but loves life and is a force to behold. And then you get the monster. And the monster maybe comes closest to becoming the Ubermensch. After all, they do rewrite their ideology they rewrite their morality to suit the ideology they pursue. But they never attain the ability to question the ideology. Hitler believed in pseudoscientific nonsense. He had believed in the old Nordic gods. Stalin, Mao, they were communists. They never managed to rise above themselves and question that aspect. At best, they were extremely successful sociopaths, but they certainly weren't nihilists. Because what nihilism really boils down to is it's not so much a philosophy as it is a toolkit for mimetic re-engineering yourself. And it is just as dangerous as performing brain surgery on yourself when you do it right. And it can certainly go awry in all those cases that I just mentioned, so it must be done carefully. But it is fundamental to being an intellectual. You can't follow the herd. You can't just believe everything that you've been told growing up, everything you learned in kindergarten. You need to actually question things. And so this is where nihilism starts, with no absolute value. And in fact, it's not even atheistic in particular. If you are a theist, if you are a Christian, then the point of saying there is no God, that God is dead, is because God is unknowable. You cannot know God. God is infinitely vaster than you are. And while there might be a great deal of merit in Christian theology, what you've been taught on Sunday school is not the answer. That is what man said. And so accepting the fact that a God that is out there is unknowable, you must then go and question everything to the very deepest routes. Learning that HBD, Human Biodiversity Theorem, that not all races are created equal, is a massive, painful shock to the system. That the values of liberty, fraternity, and equality are basically made up words with very, very little syntactic value in them is depressing and painful. But this is what the true nihilist does, is they, one by one, encounter all of these myths that they've been taught growing up, all these religious style beliefs that have just been shoved into the back of their head, and they rip them apart, look at them, and reassemble them to create an ideology which reflects reality, to create a morality that reflects themselves. It is becoming your own God. It is, as I said in another video, when you've lost everything, you're free to do anything. And the Christians speak of when you have been following Jesus for long enough, you fall into grace. You accept the inevitability of your sinfulness, and you just fall into grace. These are all the same thing. It is becoming your own God. It is falling into yourself. When you restructure everything, you are now free to become the best thing that you could possibly be. You don't work out and eat well because that's what you're told to do. You don't read books, ancient tomes, and treatises on economics because you're trying to impress somebody or earn a mark, but because that is what you have become. You have re-engineered yourself to become the best version of yourself, and not a poisonous mix of different memes from different sources bouncing around in your brain, making you miserable and ill. Nihilism is about becoming the best that you can be. Intellectually, physically, spiritually, all of those things. And with that established, I think we're ready to move into Atheistkult next time. Take care of yourselves, folks.